Bizwadget, our man, says, can someone guide me on how to get a press release published in major media outlets like Forbes, Entrepreneur, and BBC? Are people doing guest posts on these platforms, or is it something else? I've seen some people charging $500 per article and others charging $10,000. I'm a bit confused about what exactly these services entail. Can someone explain what these providers are doing? George says, how do you guys handle bad mindset days? Josh says, what platform do you use to store and use your agency's SOPs? Welcome back, folks. We got another agency Q&A. I kind of popped my shoulder out this morning, so it's a little bit rough. I've got a long history of dislocating this bad boy. This was not a severe one, but still hurt. And it's never very fun because you never know how long it's going to go. A couple quick little announcements just before we get rocking and rolling. One of those is that I made a little post in the group. I don't know if you guys saw it, but it was about doing a webinar on basically alternatives to what everybody else is saying you got to do, which is send a million messages and get ghosted and ignored a lot, or donate a small college fund to Uncle Zuck, to being able to identify people who have audiences, getting them to actually sell and promote your stuff for you. You can actually do $1 million a year with one partner. We have more than a few people actually inside of our members area doing actually that. But I want to show you guys how you can do that. Like, I actually did this in a brand new niche a year ago to show people what was possible. And in 26 days, we did 16 grand. And I actually, was thinking about the math of that. If you wanted to, continue with that, I don't know how most of you guys would feel about an extra 16 grand a month recurring added. But at the end of the year, that would be like 190,000, which is not terrible. So for those of you guys who are interested in doing that, I'm going to do a free webinar, walk you guys through it step by step, and I'm going to show you both the tactical, what I actually say and do, as well as the strategy of why I'm doing what I'm doing, so you guys understand the principles there and be able to do it. So we're probably going to run that Friday at 10 o'clock. I have not officially, 10 o'clock my time, which is Pacific right now. I have not officially settled on that, but for those of you guys who are interested, I'm going to send an email invite over to our list in a little bit, so you'll see it then. So anyways, let's get into the good stuff. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, Frankie Finn proudly brings to you our weekly Q&A. Why do I always cough when that comes up? Weekly Q&A. It's one arm. As I told you guys who missed the intro, my shoulder popped out this morning, so I'm just taking it easy on it. Old hockey injury. That's the most Canadian thing ever, right? I got a hockey injury in my left shoulder. It's back in place now, but it's a little sore. It's a little tender. Anyways, let's get into the good stuff. So we got Lachlan up first. He says, Facebook client getting ads. Thank you, Frankie Finn, for the advice last week. I've been testing the Facebook machine out. I have 2 unqualified leads so far for $60. I have nothing to compare this to. Is that good? Should I test another offer out? Here are my ads and the current client results. The end result is a form filled out. You guys cannot see the ad, but the ad says, get 2 new custom orthotic patients in 14 days with our Orthotic Plus campaign. $45 trial, 2 times $45. Okay, so some deep level thoughts for you on this. Okay, so firstly, I think there's a hidden metric in Facebook ads, and most people will spout off all the seemingly important metrics, such as click-through rates, sign-up rates, cost per lead, cost per sale, and those kind of things. And I'm not saying all of those things don't matter. They do, but they only matter in so much as they matter towards the hidden metric. And the hidden metric is not easy to quantify, but it is called, are the right people coming through the machine? And I'll tell you, I've made the mistake of running a bunch of ads in the past that actually all of my numbers look good. Our click-through rates were above what I wanted them to be. So I forget the numbers, but we were getting 5-6%, which is super high. We had 30% opt-in rates, and we were getting calls booked $10-20 a piece. Obviously, this was a little while ago when Facebook was cheaper. But at the end of the day, none of the right people were showing up on the phone calls. That was back in the day when we still did calls. And so I tell you that because don't get caught up in that. The other thing too is a lot of people will tell you your metrics are good or bad. It's very niche dependent. Like the cost to run an ad to a personal injury lawyer is different than it is to run it to a dentist. Is different than the ad to go get an online coach. Cole says my mind went to Mexican underground to underground Mexican wrestling injury. Don't rule that out, folks, because the gun show is real. So anyway, I share that with you guys because the most important metric in a Facebook ad or any sort of campaign is like, I would rather make, I do a lot of this organic now, but if I make like a Facebook post and I get one of the right person to come by, that is far more valuable to me than like getting hundreds of people that aren't fit. So like, for example, like I've been kind of like brokering a little bit of like agencies that are for sale with other people who are buying them. Like occasionally people come to me and say they want to buy an agency. Occasionally other people say they want to sell an agency. I've been doing a little bit of matchmaking. And often if somebody has something they want to buy and I make a post for them looking to sell, like sometimes like just getting one reply of the right person, that's a huge win, right? And so the same thing would be true if I ran that in a paid ad. So I tell that to you guys because I think people get too caught up in those unimportant metrics. Now I'll tell you, one of the side effects of Alex Hormozi's $100 million leads, or $100 million offer, his first book, is that a lot of people took that to mean that offers equals over-the-top guarantee. And over-the-top guarantee is a useful tool, but it's not the whole thing. And so the reason I say that is because the 2 custom orthotics patients is essentially the result or outcome you're promising. And that is the piece that would actually make the greatest deal of difference, is changing and personalizing that. And if I suspect correctly, because I don't know as much about this thing, but being specific about which types of orthotics patients are going to come through the machine will make 1,000% difference. So like if I say to a roofer, I'm going to get you more business, that's one level of the game. But if I say to a roofer, I'm going to get you one big commercial lead, like for a commercial job, that's a way different deal than like, hey, like my neighbor's got a leak. I'm going to spend 3 hours or an hour driving over there, an hour talking to him, an hour driving back to make $80. Like they don't care about that, right? So like, but if I say I'm going to get you a $450,000 factory job, it's a totally different deal. So it's the meaningful specifics. To give you an example of the power of this, like let's say I have an offer that is, and I'm going to compare your offer to steak for a minute, okay? So like say I say, we got a steak for $20. Well, that's one level of outcome. But if I say, hey, now it's going to be a Wagyu beef steak for $20, now it's more valuable. Now if I say, hey, I got a $20 Wagyu beef steak and it's made by Gordon Ramsay, became more valuable. What if I say you're going to eat it on top of the Empire State Building overlooking the city of New York, $20. Now all of a sudden that steak gets more valuable. What if I say I invited your celebrity crush, whoever that is? But for growing up, for me, that was a super hot Shania Twain, also from Windsor, Ontario, Canada. Originally born there anyway, not raised there. I had fun little side story. I have a buddy who was born at the same hospital in the same deal, and when they put all the babies in the little incubators in that room, he was there with Shania, so he makes the joke that I slept with Shania Twain. Kind of true from a certain perspective. But anyways, I say that to you because, like, obviously the steak on top of the Empire State Building with your celebrity crush that's Wagyu beef made by Gordon Ramsay is like gonna fetch a higher price tag than just like I'll make you a steak. So often like the details of that are like the trappings, the specifics of the outcome. So if I was going to tighten that deal, it would be very, very specific. And the way I get this, by the way, this does not come from you. It actually comes from the clients, right? Let me say that again. So like you ask people like what outcome would they most want to get, or what problem are they most trying to solve? And what you'll find is you'll just dial that messaging in faster. But having said that, like even if you have 2 unqualified leads, those are still people you can talk to that can help you dial your messaging in. Now, having said that, usually my test ads on Facebook, $50 to $100. So to me, like you're gonna have lots of little failures. I know nobody talks about this. Everybody sells the like custom, just use my ad and you'll become a fucking millionaire. But the truth is that like usually with Facebook ads, like I had a private talk with Ryan Dice about this, and he said that for every 300 Facebook ads that their company runs internally, they expect to succeed on 8 of them, which means like 292 failures, right? So if you guys understand that Facebook ads is a lot of trying and failing, you'll do better than people who are looking for some magic ad that always works, which is what, to be honest, what most of the market is. And then also understanding that like the longer and better you nurture those leads, the more they're going to work, right? So having said that, like, to me, the goal usually in the beginning is just to initiate conversations so you can ask people lots of questions and follow up with them and follow up with them. Not necessarily to sell anything, but to be able to figure out what's not working about your ads so that you can dial it in. And what will happen is eventually you'll have enough conversations by asking enough intelligent questions. Literally, they write your own ads. My best ads, I always say, are parrot ads. You know a parrot? Like you say, oh, suck my cock, and then the parrot goes, oh, suck my cock. Right? Like, you probably don't say dirty things to a parrot. I would, personally. But I'm an internet degenerate, so don't listen to me. But anyways, the best ads are written by clients, not by you. Like, the more I figured this out, and I have a free training on our YouTube channel called The Unfair Sales Advantage. If you guys go to YouTube and type Beyond Agency Profits, Unfair Sales Advantage, it'll show you how to, like, basically listen into the conversations your clients are already having online in private communities where they don't really think outside marketers are listening. But the AI bots and the marketers are always listening, at least the good ones. And then what happens is you can use their messaging to, like, then parrot it back, and they'll say exactly. Because I say that to you because the thing that's missing is that to orthotics patient is probably just not specific enough. It's like literally just not specific enough to the thing they want. And often it's a small shift, right? Like if I tell a roofer I'm going to get you more business, that probably misses the mark. If I say I'm going to get you more jobs, that probably misses the mark. If I say I'm going to get you one more commercial job, all of a sudden it lands because he knows that's, you know, a $250,000 job could be pretty life-changing for his business. That's a small tweak, and it ain't like you're not really running that different Google ads or Facebook ads or making different websites. You're just aiming it a little bit differently. So I say that to you because chances are you're not far away, but the only one who can help you dial that in is a potential client. So like to me, like just initiate conversations. And this, if you're not sure where to start a conversation, this is my go-to question. Do you mind telling me a little bit about your situation? It's the most unassuming thing in the world. But the power of that is you don't steer them to say anything specific. So the problems that are most relevant, they bring up naturally. You don't try and tell them, do you have this problem or do you want this outcome? You let them tell you who they are, what they're trying to do, and what they're after, and then use what they say to go deeper. Almost always, the answer to that is like a general level 30,000 foot view thing. So they might say, like, I need more new business. And I'd say, well, what do you mean? Like, how much new business are you looking to get? Tell me about your, like, you know, where you guys are at, where you guys are trying to get. Like, give me some of the specifics here. And almost always the devil's in the details there. So I hope that's helpful to you because, like, there is an art to dialing in an offer when you're making it. And to me, the fastest way to do that is to actually have conversations. Ironically, I have a lot of conversations when I'm dialing in an offer so that I can then put it all into video and never have to talk to people ever again. But I do most of that diagnosing and figuring out over text message or over DMs, and I'll tell you why. Because people are the most open and the least threatened over text message and DM and email and things like that. So they'll be more real with you because they know they can walk away. Like if I'm texting somebody, they know, you know, it's not like a sales conversation where it's high pressure. Like they'll actually thoughtfully respond, and that'll help you dial it in so much faster. But just think about it. Everything they say, write it down, parrot it back to them. The best ads are written by your clients, so your goal is to get to that as quickly as possible with a newish kind of offer. So I know that's probably not a straight and direct answer, but I hope that's helpful to you in figuring it out a whole lot sooner. Bizwadget, our man, says, can someone guide me on how to get a press release published in major media outlets like Forbes, Entrepreneur, and BBC? Are people doing guest posts on these platforms, or is it something else? I've seen some people charging $500 per article and others charging $10,000. I'm a bit confused about what exactly these services entail. Can someone explain what these providers are doing? All right, Bizwadget, this is kind of a loaded thing, but I've had this conversation with Lane Hauk kind of in the background here, and also with Dennis Yu. So there is a whole line of companies that sell articles in Forbes and Entrepreneur, and this is useful for people who just want to say on their profile, featured in Entrepreneur, featured in Forbes, featured in Success Magazine. And usually what they do is they go to the conferences and things like that, and they network with those people, and they shake their hands, and they eventually get guest posting privileges, and they sell their guest posting privileges. And usually they publish articles that nobody's going to read and nobody really cares, except it's valuable if all you want to do is say I was featured in Forbes. And sometimes there can be a use for that, right? Like if I'm a I don't know, like a weight loss expert, and it says featured in Forbes, featured in Success, that like is probably going to generate more sales for me. Now, there's a second way to get media, and this is real earned media, and it's you have to give stories to journalists that are actually valuable, and you don't pay for that at all. But the side effect of that is, like, I'll tell you why most people can't do that. It's work. It's requires real relationships. So, like, if I was going to do this, I'm not, but what I would do is find, like, somebody at Forbes who publishes, you know, the kind of stuff that I write about, and, like, connect with them and, like, comment on their shit and, like, talk to them and tell them why you think they're cool and learn more about their hopes, dreams, and wishes, and send them pictures of their family and shit like that. And then also try and be useful to them and go, hey, it seems like you're publishing a lot of stories about blank. I think this would be a really cool idea for your magazine. And also being okay with being rejected and understand it might take 3-4 times. By the way, Paul's commenting on the shirt. Shout out to Lana, who got me the May the Beach Be With You. So, yeah. This is an awesome shirt, by the way. I love it. This is my favorite shirt to wear. So, Lana, in case you didn't know that, your gift turned into the most amount of laundry that Ilk has ever had. So, to answer your question, Bizwadget, like, when it comes to getting in those magazines, you're really only doing it 2 ways. You're like, way number 1 is you're paying for something that's probably never going to be read, but you're okay with that because you just want to be able to say I've been featured in Success Magazine and Forbes Magazine or whatever. Or you actually build real relationships with journalists and you pitch them on stories and give them something of value that they can then serve their needs. So there's a real art and magic to this, but I've learned to do this over the years where you basically you find people who have audiences and you serve their audience by, like, serving their needs first, but doing that simultaneously in a way where it directs people to you. So, for example, I know that, like, when I was doing this in the 90-day challenge, I know that the industry associations, they want to stay on top of shit. They want to tell people about the new stuff. And I realized just looking at their stuff, nobody's really talking about AI, even though in our marketing world, everybody can't shut up about it. So I was like, hey, why don't I show people about AI and how you can use it as a tool to generate content and use the content to generate jobs and the things that they ultimately want and give away that value for free, knowing that when they go, okay, that AI content sounds interesting, but I need somebody to do that for me, who do you think they're going to go looking for, right? So it leads people to me, but it's not overly promotional, it's not overly hypey. It actually serves them and their audience reads that and gets value out of it, and so it makes them look good to their audience, right? So there's a real art to doing that. Paul says, reminds me of Endless Summer. Paul's a cool dude, for those of you guys who don't know Paul. Paul should be on your radar if you guys are not following Paul. Anyways, that's a conversation for another day. George says, how do you guys handle bad mindset days? So I'll be real with you guys, just so you know. I have shitty days too. Go figure. Usually my shitty days, I wouldn't say 100 times out of 100, but the shitty days come for me usually when we're underslept with kids. Like you just woke up way too fucking early. Some little monster didn't allow you to have a good night of sleep. And you wake up and you're just like, you are not 100%. So I'll tell you what helps me is I do have a morning ritual. And it's not super complicated. I do a gratitude journal every day. And I have my vision, as you can see, guys, like my vision's pretty elaborate. But all the things I'm working on, I have printed out behind me. I look at it every day. I look at my people every day. And I don't spend an insane amount of time. I'm not like one of these guys that you spend like, you got to go cold plunge and then you got to, meditate and visualize for 6 hours. And like to me, the only goal of the mindset stuff for me is to just get me in the right mental state to do the work, right? When I feel ready to do the work, I do the work. And then that's it. Like when I'm not working, I try not to work and just be present with the family and the kids as much as possible. Although, like the hamster wheel's always working. And I think what most people understand is they think you're never supposed to have bad days and bad mindset days. The goal for me is entrepreneurship has all these highs and lows, and it's so that over time, what you want is your lows, like your lowest of lows, to be higher than they were a year before. And to have your highest of highs be your all-time highs. So that, like, literally, even when you're having your worst day, it's better than, like, what used to be. And so I was thinking about this the other day, and, I was explaining this to somebody else, but I was like, man, if I could go back, like, 20 years ago and tell young me that the problems that I had, like today, like I would have loved to have those problems 20 years ago. And there's always problems, just in life and business. You never reach a state where it's like you're free of all the challenges and difficulty. But the opposite is true. Like it gets better over time. Like this is a real problem. I was telling somebody else, and it's been a problem for like months. So where I live, there's a big open field behind me in this direction. The ocean is that way, and there's some like more houses in this direction. And because we have a big open field over here, I get rats who come in under my pool, and they buried it in because I got chickens, and sometimes there's like leftover chicken food. And there's no easy way to get rid of rats in Mexico. And even when you get rid of them, right, like there's still an open field, so like more come. And so like I have rats under my pool house, right? Like, but in the grand scheme of things, it's like, like if you had told me, 20 years ago that I'd live in a 5-bedroom, 5-bathroom like palace overlooking the ocean, and like one of the issues is that I'd have some issues with my pool house, like I'd be okay with it. So that's not me trying to tell you guys have to have my goals. What I'm trying to tell you guys with that is that progress is always measured looking out the rear view mirror or the rear view window of the car, not forwards. And I learned this from a really good book called The Gap and the Gain by Dan Sullivan and Benjamin Hardy. And the idea is that whatever your goal in life and business is, it's kind of like the horizon. So like when you see the horizon and say, I'm trying to get there, as you drive towards it, you get closer, but at the same time, the horizon moves away. And so I see this with a lot of income goals. Like my starting income goal was like, I want to get to $5K a month so I don't need a job. Then it got there, and then it was like $10K. And then that $10K was like not so linear, but eventually like it went up from there. And the goal kept moving. The goal kept moving, just like the horizon, right? Like whatever was quote unquote going to make me happy kept going into the distance. And so a lot of times, like especially in those early years, I spent a lot of my time being miserable, even though we were financially succeeding and better off, because I wasn't at my goal. And what I learned is you simply look backwards out the rearview mirror and you go, man, I started at 0. Look how far I've come. I've got clients. I got a list. I got an audience. I got people who listen to me. I got incoming sales. I got a team. Whatever that is for you. So the other habit that helps me like proactively not deal with all of that is I count wins in the evening. I focus on like counting 3 wins, and I just remind myself like you're winning at the game, because otherwise like entrepreneurship is a lot of getting your ass kicked in general, and a lot of failing and a lot of failing forward, and so it can feel like you're just struggling all the time. And I learned this from Ray Dalio in Principles, where he said even though he's built the world's largest hedge fund, he said most of the journey was spent in the struggle, and I set a goal to struggle well. And so I'm like, that's kind of my goal, is like in the struggle, I want to struggle well. So I want to be grateful for what's happening, including the problems and the things that are not working, and then be clear on the vision and recap my wins. And that's really it. Like, that's all I do. And it sounds like a lot, but like I spend maybe 20, 30 minutes a day, split up half in the morning, half right before bed, and just focus on that. Just focus on what I'm grateful for and where I'm winning, and just reinforce that again and again. And what you'll find is over time, like you'll have bad days, but they won't be so miserable. And some days, by the way, you got to work real hard to find things that are grateful for. And some days you got to work real hard to find some wins. It's not always like simple and straightforward, but the more you choose to see it, like what you focus on expands. And so I know that's what helps me. I'm not telling you guys what to do, but where I think people get tripped up on mindset rituals is when they spend all fucking day doing it to avoid work. My goal is not to avoid work with it. It's to get my mind straight so that when I need to execute on things, I'm in the right place to do it. Because, like, to be honest with you guys, like, I don't think enough people realize this, but I'm just being real with you. More days than not, I wake up uninspired, unmotivated, right? Like, like the point of my practice is to get me to the place where I can then do those things. I say that to you guys because I think too many people think like you're supposed to wake up like this fucking Tony Robbins video, just like, rah! Take on the world, walk over hot coals. Most days I wake up, I'm like, I don't want to be awake yet. Fuck this shit. Why kids do not let me sleep? And then the more you focus on getting your mind right, the better and longer you can do that. So I share that with you guys because I hope that's helpful to you guys, is not thinking you have to be some fucking robot and not human. Just like have things that help you get out of it. But don't spend all day doing them. Spend enough time that you can like predictably get into the right state and do what you need to do and then move on. So anyways, I hope that's helpful, my dude. Josh says, what platform do you use to store and use your agency's SOPs? For those of you guys who are not familiar, by the way, SOP stands for Standard Operating Procedure. And if you're new to this concept, I would recommend a book as a starting place called The E-Myth. And the E-Myth talks about a lot of like service businesses in the book and scaling them, and talks about like anything you do repeatedly in a business should be like reduced down to a checklist that anybody can follow. So they use an example in the book. For example, there was a hotel and they were trying to give excellent client service, and what they found is like sometimes the cleaners would remember to do it on this room, or sometimes they'd hire somebody new and they forget to put the chocolate on the pillow or whatever. And so what happened is they turned it into a checklist so that every single time a person went into a room, they would have to check all the items. Yes, I cleaned the toilet. Yes, I made the bed. Yes, I put the chocolate on the pillow. Yes, I put the handwritten note for the client. And what happened is over time they could predictably deliver this wow experience at scale, and it didn't. The employees almost became interchangeable. Not that you don't want to have good people, but if you think about McDonald's, because they have such predictable systems, like the employees are interchangeable. You quit your job at McDonald's, like they got your ass replaced 5 minutes later, and that new person can follow those processes just as good as you. And so the idea is the more you systematize and organize your business, the more you can do this. Now there is a prerequisite in the agency world, is you can't be a generalist, otherwise your SOPs will not make any sense because you'll be doing too much shit. But if you have like essentially any offer or any deliverable or any service where you're reusing aspects of it for clients. So like when we first, in my second agency, we started running Facebook ads for injury attorneys, like they all got the same fucking ads, right? Like I just, Frankie's picture became Cole's picture or Paul's picture, and the colors would be a little bit different and the phone number was a little different, but it's the same fucking ad, right? And so what happened is we had a checklist, like update the client's picture, update this, click here, load here, and it was just a digital checklist that they worked through. Now, if you have those in place, there's a lot of places you can put them. For us, I'm a user personally of Asana. I've used Asana for like a decade. Asana is probably the simplest project management software with the least amount of bells and whistles, and that's why I like it. I'm not telling you guys that it is the software for everyone. I believe they actually all work. It's really the one that's like fits your style. So like there's Trello that has like post-it notes, and if you're a post-it note person, I think you'd love Trello. But this is how I actually come up with shit. Like I just like literally just write it on a fucking notepad and then think about it and then like assign it, delegate it, or go do it, right? And so anyway, Asana was like, for me, like it was usable out of the box. There was no learning curve, which is rare in software that it doesn't have some learning curve. But truth be told, like it was just a digital checklist where you like assign somebody's name to it. So we have all our stuff stored in Asana, and then the actual SOPs are done either in Google Docs or Loom videos. So Google, like, but it's a digital checklist. That's all it is, right? Like, don't get caught up in whether we do it on video or we do it in a doc. It's like we have a list of everything we're doing in Asana, a person responsible, a deadline, and then a checklist for how to actually do that thing. And then what happens is like you can have awesome people, but the pieces become interchangeable. And then the beautiful thing about this, by the way, if somebody were to like get up and leave your company, which I encourage you to like treat people like family and have them around for a long time. But even if they decided to like move on and do their own thing, it's very easy to swap employees when you have all the checklists and step-by-step and instructions. And so I view all of this as a prerequisite to hiring. Like I wouldn't dare try and hire people if I didn't have some level of SOPs in place. And the other thing is there are some tools that can make your life easier. So one of those is called tango.us. It's a browser plugin. It's free. And all you got to do is as you're doing a task that you're going to repeat in your agency, you click record, and it'll automatically map out the steps you take, and then you can dump all that into a Google document, and you have a process, right? So like, say one of the things you do is every time you get hired for a Google Ads client, you create a landing page. Well, record yourself making the landing page, and now you got an SOP for how to create a landing page, and the next time you don't have to do it. So what happens is almost always it slows you down in the moment with the first time you do it, but you free up all this time the second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, and it gets done your way. Because I hear all the time people go, well, nobody does it like me. Well, if you put it into an SOP, they'll do it exactly like you. Because and then what happens is most of the issues in our company now are addressed at the process level. Like I never assume people are lazy and stupid and any of those things, which I used to assume back in the day. Now I'm just like, man, it must be an issue with the process. Where is the process going off the rails? Because, think about it like McDonald's. If one person's having a problem making a Big Mac, chances are like based on the fact that we got 10 trillion fucking stores, lots of people are having a problem making with a Big Mac. Let's fix the process so that we get perfect Big Macs across the board. And it allows you to treat people differently as well. So anyways, I hope that's helpful to you guys who are in this kind of scaling part of the thing. Andrew says, what tool could you use to figure out what business in a certain area are spending on ads targeting a certain area radius? Andrew, I'll give you the answer in one word, which is called Coldlytics. If you use the code, I think it's Frankie25 or Frankie50, to be honest, I don't remember. I want to say Frankie25. But you'll get some bonus credits free from Big Daddy over here on the house. And Coldlytics, just so you know, is like data. That's all it is. It's like, but as you're correctly pointing out, it's like you want to identify the people who are actively spending money. Because I always say, if you try and talk to people who are not spending money, you have two sales to make. Sale number one, you should spend money. Sale number two, with me. And it's actually sale number one that they'll fight you on. Right? If you'll see this where businesses will say, well, we've grown with word of mouth. Or the way they approach spending money on ads, they'll go, this is $500 and this is all the money I got. You better get me a return or I'm not going to do any more. As where when you deal with businesses who are accustomed to spending money, they'll say like, well, our total budget for the month is $250,000 on ad spend. We have this much allocated here, here, and here, but we'd be willing to play with like 10K to try out your idea. And if you can make it work within 60 days, then we're willing to allocate more. That's what a business that spends money talks like. So Coldlytics, and by the way, I made a tutorial on this. It's on YouTube if you go to Beyond Agency Profits and type Coldlytics. But I'll just share. So you can specifically search for niches or businesses that have a Facebook ad pixel and a Google ad pixel installed. What does it mean, by the way, if they have both of those pixels installed? Right? Means at the very least they have at one point paid for both of those ad platforms. Right? So if you're looking for plumbers, do you want to talk to a plumber who's grown through word of mouth and referrals and never once spent money on ads? Or do you want to talk to somebody who's already spending $30,000 a month? And this is backwards from how most people think because they try and sell for need instead of behavior. And so need, like I talked about this in book 1, but like if you sold shoes and you see people walking around barefoot, your first instinct would be to like, hey, you guys need my shoes. And what you'll find is they'll fight you on that because they fundamentally don't believe in wearing shoes. And so you're trying to convince them to do something they don't already do. Now, if you talk to somebody who has 200 pairs of shoes in the closet, what you're going to find is like it's the most natural sale in the world, and there's always a reason they need a new pair of shoes. Now, I wish I knew this sooner. But the people with 200 pairs of shoes in the closet, the people who buy 200 marketing services have more problems, not less, than the people who don't spend. Because like I'll compare this to like, I mentioned this, like big injury attorneys that spend a shit ton of money, for example, like which is somebody I've dealt with a lot. Just with TV, which is one media, they got to figure out how to make commercials. They got to record them. They got to get a tracking phone number. They got to get a jingle. They got to get somebody to edit them. They got to buy media, which means they got to talk to like 7 different TV stations. They got to negotiate prices and sign contracts, and they got to measure it, and they got to track it, and then they got to come up with new creatives, and they got to, all of that, put that together, and that's one media they're managing, and then multiply that by radio, billboards, Google ads, Facebook ads, TikTok, Instagram, etc., etc., etc. They have like 1,000 times more problems. So they need people like you to come in and say like, I'll just take this plate off of you and manage this workload for you. And what you'll find is actually easier to sell that stuff because they have more problems. And the problems are bigger, right? Like if they're spending $250,000 a month, like being off 10% on an ad, could mean the difference of like 25, 30 grand that you can easily correct sometimes by changing a button, right? So it's like your ability to be helpful and useful to them is actually much higher. And if I could just impress upon people one thing, it would be work with bigger businesses with bigger problems and bigger budgets. And a lot of times we feel like, oh, I'm not ready. Like I remember the first time I got hired by one of them, they were like doing $100 million a year. I'm like, I never been anywhere close to $100 million a year. What the fuck am I going to tell these guys? And what I found out after 5 minutes of working them, it's like any big corporate company you've ever worked with or anybody you know has worked with. There's all these meetings and bureaucracy and politics and, Larry only got promoted because he's banging Jenny and all that bullshit. I see our man Lynn Askin. What's up, my dude? I was actually just plugging your EOS consulting to somebody this morning, so you may have somebody coming down the pipeline in that. Who I think is a good fit for you. Anyway, but just saying that, like, Sorry, I lost my train of thought on that. The businesses like that actually have funds to invest in you. Like there's a whole art to identifying them, but all of that like spending on marketing that a bigger business would do with more needs leaves a trail. Like if I Google a real estate agent and I can't really find anything about them, and they only have like one listing, that's probably a broke real estate agent. As where I compare that, like if I find a website and it says he's the broker or record and he's got 40 agents under him, and then they got an Instagram and they got a Facebook and they got a YouTube channel, and the YouTube channel's got 500 videos, and I can see then they're also running Google ads and they got 127 Google reviews, that's a better fit than what most people think it is. And most people try and sell for need, and you'll just beat your head against the wall. I compare it to if like you try and sell businesses that do not typically invest in marketing, it's the equivalent of like imagine you had to sell pork ribs and then I send you off to the Jewish vegetarian conference. Like I don't care what you say, I don't care what you do, I don't care what your message is, I don't care what your sales pitch is, I don't care how many testimonials you got, you ain't selling any fucking ribs, right? Like that is not happening because you're not talking to buyers of pork ribs, right? So that's how important that detail. And by the way, I used to study some old like direct marketing stuff way back in the day, and in the 60s and 70s there were some guys who got really, really big in direct mail, and they found there were 3 factors that affected direct mail success. So 60% of them was this one factor, 30% of them was this next factor, and then 10% was the third. The 60%, can you guess what it is, was who they sent the list to. So like if they were selling a financial newsletter, they found it was easier to sell to somebody who already owned 6 financial newsletters than to try and convince somebody who had never bought one to invest in it. So 60% of the success came down to just who they were talking to. 30% of it was the second factor, came down to what offer they made. So 90% of the game is just talking to the right people and making them an offer that's easy to say yes to. And 10% of it was the copy and that's typically the piece people focus on first. Like, what do I got to say to get them to buy the thing, and not who am I talking to and what am I offering them, right? They try and dress it up with words, and sometimes it's just little tweaks. Like I wrote about this in book 2. You guys will see this soon. But I have a friend of a friend who they ran an e-commerce store selling pizza stones. So pizza stones it's like literally a fucking round stone disc that's flat. And for those of you guys who don't cook, and you get it real hot, and then you put your pizza on it and stick it in the oven, what happens is it makes it crispy on the bottom. So you get like that, kind of crunch. That's probably not an accurate crunch sound. Well, they were having some success selling it, and they tried all the copy and messaging, and what they found is eventually they asked the question, like, what else do people buy with this? And they came up with the question, well, they're using it to make pizza, and they probably buy some flour and some cheese and some tomato sauce. So they contacted one of the flour manufacturers that makes specialty Italian 00 flour, said, can we do something cool for our people? They said, yep, we'll give them 50% off, a gift certificate for their first bag from us. And then they contacted a YouTuber at a bunch of top pizza recipes, said, can we make a little video book that has 10 of your top pizza recipes? And they said, yep. And now, instead of just being, hey, buy our pizza stone, the offer became buy our pizza stone and get 50% off Italian 00 flour, plus you get our 10 most popular pizza recipes, and we'll walk you through how to do it. All of a sudden, it's a better offer. It's easier to sell, right? And it costs nothing, right? So I share that with you guys because I think too many times people get caught up in trying to say the perfect line to somebody on an outreach message instead of fundamentally talking to somebody who's got a proven history of buying it and then offering them something that's just easy to say yes to. For a lot of you guys, it's really simple. Like if you do SEO, instead of trying to get a stranger to buy fucking SEO, get a stranger to let me run an analysis for you, right? That's maybe not super sexy, but it's it's very low risk to say yes to that, and then start running some analysis for people and demonstrate your expertise that you actually know how to help them instead of selling them on the idea of doing it. Last question we got, unless any of you guys want to chime in before I finish ranting here. We got Nicole who says, what do you do for active client portals? A lot of my clients aren't tech savvy, but I need a portal of sorts to get what I need from them and make onboarding a new client more seamless. So Nicole, I'll give you our whole playbook for onboarding, and this took me 10, 12 years to figure out, and I'll tell you, Joey Coleman's Never Lose a Customer Again was a big fat influence on that. But I view onboarding as 2 distinct things, okay? So the first is kind of a psychological thing that not enough people think about, which is almost always when people make a big purchase that's going to be like life altering, there's almost always an automatic emotional reaction, something called buyer's remorse. And buyer's remorse is mostly like if you could put it into like a thought that would have a voice, it'd go, I'm going to look really fucking stupid for this. I'm going to have to tell my friends, like family, I got scammed by another SEO agency, or, like I can't believe I hired these fucking jokers, right? And so this just comes out of the fact that people have bought so many things that disappointed them. So buyer's remorse is almost an automatic reaction. And so I believe job number one in onboarding is to counteract the buyer's remorse. And the way you do that is what I call welcome aboard. And it's really just like, we're so honored to have you. You're a guest of the family now. And you're in good hands now, if I could like put a voice to that. And so for us, like, I'll tell you, we do that 3 ways, real simple. We send a client gift in the mail. I use edible arrangements. I don't send their fruit, by the way, which is what they're known for. We send cookies and brownies. And the reason why we do cookies and brownies is because those motherfuckers are like just crazy fast. Edible arrangements can often go the same day they buy from us. So like, new lawyer signs up, 3 hours later, there's a knock at the door, cookies and brownies. Welcome to the family. We also use a service called Handwritten with a Y. And what happens is we use Handwritten, and they send out these machine AI generated handwritten notes. They look like you sat there and wrote a handwritten note. We appreciate you so much. We're so honored to have you. And that comes as a second thing. And then the third is with a welcome email that says, hey, we're really excited to have you. So that's 3 welcomes, but all kind of like under one central idea. And then the second thing we do is the piece you're asking about, which is basically like you usually need information to get started. Logins, passwords, access to shit, like stuff like that. And what I would suggest to you is get super, super organized on that. Now, if any of you guys use Facebook or Google, there's a tool we've used for several years called Leadsy. And Leadsy makes it so it's a couple of clicks. So like I had a hard time like when we did Facebook ads for a lot of years, because Facebook is unnecessarily confusing and complex to grant access, because they have to grant access to a business page, they have to grant access to an ad account, and they have to grant access to a business manager, 3 things. And if you have clients that are non-techies, like say lawyers, where their average age client might be 50 years old or older, often up to 70, and they're not super techie always. When you say, like, they're like, well, I already gave you access. And you're like, well, you gave me the business manager and the page, but I still need the ad account. Like, and I just got tired of answering those questions. And so what Leadsy does is they just click approve, approve, approve. And in like under 2 minutes, you get access to all the things you need access to. And they don't actually have to know what they're doing. So that is what I found to be the best solution. It also has a similar functionality. You can do it for Google Ads, and I believe they're adding another platform, but don't quote me on that. It's not my tool. But anyways, like then what happens is that the getting access to the information you need takes 2 fucking minutes. So I would suggest like just the amount of headaches and stuff. Now, if that is not the case for you, there's really like 2 alternatives I've seen that work really well. Is like an automated form where it shows them in video step by step how to give access to you if you want to kind of be hands off, or old fashioned, get them on a fucking Zoom call, schedule it for like 20-30 minutes, just make it part of your buying process, and then actually like walk them through what we need. For some of our SEO stuff that we did in the restoration space, like that's basically what I had to do. I had to like, and I'm the anti-call guy, but I did a couple of calls just for, to just kind of dial that process in. But we had to do that because like, it was technical stuff we needed access to, and they're just like, trying to get general contractors who like work with my hands, trying to get those guys to figure out like Zoom and technical, and I need your Google Analytics. It was easier just like click this link. Okay, now click that button there. Yep, no, that one down there. Yep, click that. Yep, okay, click approve. Okay, I'm in that one. Okay, we're gonna do the second one now. You ready for this? That's but you want to think about it as those 2 distinct things. Welcome them so they feel like they're in good hands. And what happens is if you do a strong welcome and kick it off like really powerfully, what happens is they'll want to stay and pay you for a long time. That's the side effect of it. They feel like, oh, thank fuck, I finally found a good company. We're in good hands. And then the second piece is you make it real easy for them to get started with like access and things. Like you really, and that's the one you probably should think about the most, is how to make the technical easy. Like I said, leadsy, like automated, kind of almost like a funnel where you show them a video and then you say, click this button, grant access here, and walk them through that process. Or just old fashioned, like, hey, like as a necessary function, you got to get on the phone with me 20-30 minutes on Zoom, or somebody from our team, depending on what your setup looks like, and just like walk them through, I need your hosting, I need your this, I need your that, whatever it is. So anyways, like that's never like super easy and super straightforward, and there's always that one client who just fucking can't follow instructions. But that's part of the territory of doing this whole digital marketing agency. But I find what happens is, back in the day, we used to have no welcome in like getting access to their stuff. We didn't really have an organized process, and clients would judge you on your professionalism. Like for me, like when we were ranking websites, they would judge my ability to rank a website based on how their whole onboarding experience. Like I wish I knew that. Their ability to believe in your ability 6 months from now to rank a website is based on their initial experiences with you right after you buy. So now when they show up, there's a knock at the door. Hey, we got cookies and brownies. A couple of days later, there's a handwritten note from the team. Oh, and that's really cool. And I got this really welcome email. These guys are on top of it. Clicked a couple of buttons, and they're already ready to go. Fuck, man. Thank fuck. I hired these guys instead of somebody else. And they tend to stay and pay for a long time. That's the side effect of it. So hope that makes sense for you guys. That's all we got for questions, just, but I wanted to mention one more time that I'm going to be throwing up a webinar later in the week, and we're going to be talking about alternatives to what everybody says you have to do for prospecting. Like, by and large, like basically I see two things, which is mass outreach one-to-one, where you like cold DM a bunch of motherfuckers and mostly like get ignored. Like the side effect of that, like I'm not saying it never works for anybody, but the side effect of that is like just getting ignored at scale. Or people say you got to run Facebook ads, and I see a lot of people lose their shirt, donate a college fund to the Uncle Zuck before they get it working. And I believe there's a third alternative at least, and that's worked really, really well for us, which is to identify the people in your industry that have buying audiences, and then getting them to promote and share your stuff for them. And there's an art to doing that, and essentially like it just involves like making them look good. Like the more they look good to their audience, and then what happens is, why try and find 20,000 if you're trying to get in front of general contractors? Like there's somebody who already has a podcast with 20,000 general contractors. There's somebody who already has a conference. There's somebody who already sells the top software and tool. There's somebody who puts on a live event. There's a course there. There's a mastermind. Somebody wrote the book. Somebody's got a YouTube channel. Your goal is to find those places and get in front of those people all at once. And I find it to be massively more efficient because you can send like 1 to 5 messages instead of like a billion. And by and large, like I don't ever bat 1,000 with anything. Anybody who tells you that is full of shit. But like most of the people I message, like get back to me and excitedly and happily say, let's do it. And so like, I don't know, if I send 5 messages, 3 or 4 of them are like going to work. And it's just far more energy efficient. And the other thing nobody talks about, instead of being this hypey, salesy, trying to write a perfect message, buy my shit kind of thing, you actually give value to those audiences and make the audience owners look good, which makes people reach out to you. And then we just close those people in video. And as I mentioned, as a side effect, you'll never hear ever again in your entire life, can't afford it. So anyways, if that sounds like your cup of tea, I think I'm going to do that Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific. I don't know if there'll be a replay or not, but I will probably record it. And there'll be some AI bots for sure, all the autopilots and all those listening in. So if you guys are interested in that, I'm going to post in the group about that. I'll also send an email about it. Just make sure you're on it, because I think one of the things I want to bring to our space is show people more energy efficient ways of earning a living, like far more energy efficient ways than what are taught, like all the hustle and grind and give all your money away, like I don't think is necessary. And for me, like all this just came out of like as soon as I had 3 young kids, like I don't have time for shit because they all want something from Daddy, feed me, play with me. Like this morning it was like, can we play Mario Kart together? That was what Heidi wanted. We didn't end up playing Mario Kart, but we snuggled. And then my little man played some soccer, kicking the ball around. Actually, that's how my shoulder popped out. Old hockey injury, and he kicked one like for a 2-year-old, like very high and wide. And I went to catch it, and that motion, like pop. Oh fuck! On this side, obviously, I'm just showing you on my good side. But I was like, oh fuck! It popped right out. Anyway, but if I want to be present with my kids and my family and those kind of things, like the only way to do that is have energy efficient business where a little bit of energy input creates a wide, big monetary output later. And I found nothing better to do that than to identify the people who have the big buying audiences and get in front of them. And occasionally people ask me, because they have different hardships in growing an agency, like occasionally people ask me like, I need some fucking money fast. Like, what the fuck do I do? And there is no magic button that just like automatically spits out cash. But the closest thing I have found to that is identifying the big buying audiences and contribute value in a way where there's a strategic type of thing you can give away that leads the breadcrumb trail back to you. And so I'm going to detail how all of that works. It's free, by the way. I may or may not sell you guys or offer you guys the chance to do something that may help you do that faster at the end. I haven't decided that, but I wanted to share this with you because this is just part of, for me, like I just really hope to give you guys back your time. Like, I think that's the most real valuable thing. Everybody shows like how to make money, and I'm not against you guys making a bunch of money, but I've had people tell me like, hey, like you helped me eliminate all the meetings and phone calls, and even before I made money, that's more valuable than anything else that's ever happened to me, because I think time is actually the most valuable resource we have. And eventually, like when you're sitting on your deathbed, you're not going to go, man, I wish I had more leads and more sales calls booked. You're going to say, I wish I had more time. And so I want to give you guys energy efficient ways to earn your living so that you can have your time now, not some fucking later thing, but you get to actually have your life now. So I'm going to lay that out for you guys as best I can. You guys can show up and ask questions when I'm there live, and I've made some pretty images and stuff. It's actually, by my standards, it's pretty fancy. Like, it'll still be in a Google Doc, but there'll be a real registered time and all that, and I'm hoping to see all your lovely faces. So that's all I got for you guys today. Much love. May the force be with you. Happy Monday, and appreciate y'all. Guys, if you like this video, you're also going to want to grab some free bonuses, which you can get at our website, Beyond Agency Profits. To make it easy for you, I've put the links to it in the description of this video, as well as pinned in the top comment. And we've got a couple of awesome things. This is what you'll get after you sign up. You get some of our best training, how we're closing clients over Loom videos, how we sometimes sign clients that is not a misprint for under $5 US, how to demonstrate your value in like amazing ways, trainings, how to have your clients write the best copy of your life, how we're closing without phone calls, campaigns that we've generated for clients that have done over $100,000, as well as scripts you can use to get conversations going with clients in under 10 minutes. All you got to simply do is go there, enter your name and email address, and then this is what you'll see on the other side. So if that's interesting to you, make sure to click the links below, and I will see you on the other side.